Yeah, there you go. So this is a very weird experience, I'm not going to lie. First time I've been in Deloitte Auditorium in, I don't even know how long, long time. It's great to be here. It's great to see so many faces. Getting better at recognizing people with masks on. Hi, Vishal. So first I want to welcome everyone, both here in the auditorium as well as our online audience and those that are going to watch the recording. Welcome to the Blockchain Technology and Public Policy and Industry event. This is an event put on by the Disruption Lab and by the Champaign Blockchain Meetup. I am Professor Robert Brunner. I'm Associate Dean for Innovation and the Chief Disruption Officer here in the Gies College of Business. It's a great honor for me to actually have this event, and I'm so glad that Adam came to me and suggested that we co-host this event. I'm so grateful for our guests that could come here from the Illinois state government. This is the first event in our blockchain theme. We realized a College of Business really needs to be more attuned and more aware of what's going on in the blockchain space. Blockchain has implications across all of our departments, whether it be in finance, banking, investments, whether it be in accountancy and audit and tax, whether it be in supply chain management, whatever area that people are in, there are applications for it. And then, of course, blockchain is generating data and recording data, so then anything with data analytics is going to be using that as well. So it's an incredible area. What I've done is create this disruption lab a few years ago, and now we have student projects that are working in this space, being led by Jay Kinsey. They're starting to do projects in blockchain, and so what we want to do is start creating focuses around different technologies. One of those is blockchain. And that leads to having events like today's where we can bring people together, thought leaders, to start exploring what's going on, to hear from esteemed colleagues, and to learn what's going on in other places like our State House that's going to have an impact on us. So I think there's going to be more. Hopefully people will be able to join us and we'll be able to see where this goes. This blockchain theme really is designed to get the ball rolling, to think about what's going on in blockchain that can have immediate impacts in industry, immediate impacts in academia that we need to be aware of, and what's happening in the public policy realm that's going to allow us to be more innovative and understand the opportunities better. Of course, in the Disruption Lab, we bring together students, faculty, and staff to really understand what's possible. We work with alumni, we work with companies, and now even members of our state government in order to actually make progress in these areas. This, of course, is to drive innovation. That's really what we're all about. Gies has a strategic priority of driving innovation, and that is what we really want to do, and we do that by bringing people together from all around campus and the different aspects to understand this better. So with that, I want to go ahead and stop. I'm going to turn it over to our colleague. Let me introduce State Representative Keith Wheeler. He is the representative from the 50th District. He was born in Oswego. He came to Urbana-Champaign, where he got his undergraduate degree in economics. He's very familiar with this part of campus as it looked a number of years ago. There's been a few changes in that time. But he's a proud Illini. He's happy to come back. He's excited. He saw some student projects, I know, and got to see some of the stuff that these students are doing, which is truly amazing. With that, let's welcome Keith and hear what we have to say.
Well, hi, everyone. I guess got to say how wonderful it is to be back on campus. This place means so much to me, not just for the wonderful physical, the grounds and the buildings, and there have been so many improvements since I was here as a student and since I was here last visiting, but just for the way this university and all the people in it just generate a special synergy and energy for me that just makes my imagination turn in ways that it just doesn't in other places. So I just feel this is such a special place. Thank you for the warm introduction. I'm grateful for that. As an alum of this particular campus and all the things that I got to go through as a student here, and the things that challenged me when I was in that space between high school and then figuring out what I really want to do for a career, this really wasn't on my list of things that I thought I would ever be a part of. I was a student here involved in technology. I worked at a lab for what was CSO at the time. I have no idea what it's called now. It's Computer Services Office. I'll run a lab over at the Union. It was kind of a cool thing at the time. We did a lot of high-tech things, what was really considered high-tech in the early 90s has evolved 1,000 ways since then. But that led me to be a small business owner because I decided that my talents in tech were useful to companies, especially small companies that didn't have an IBM to turn to or a large scale services company like Doit or someone else that does those kind of projects at super scale, but rather the ones that are the people that I knew personally back at home. And I began offering those services really while I was still a student and still have that company today. And that's what's afforded me the opportunity to become involved in other things. As a small business owner, I realized there's some things that maybe government didn't understand very well. So I got involved in trying to educate my friends in government about what we could do better to improve the small business space in our state. And that's what led me to ultimately run for office and how I became a legislator, which again was not on my original career path or my goals or anything of that sort at all. And it certainly has its own impact, not only on being a business person still, but also what it does in my family, my community, my friendships. It's a very interesting time to be involved in government at any level. So I salute those who are along for the ride with me on this because it's really been a challenging time. I want to talk about a few things that I've gotten to do in the legislature that don't necessarily pertain to blockchain because I want to put things in context of why we do what we do. I live in Oswego, Illinois, and I live about maybe 3/4 of a mile from what was at the time the second largest Caterpillar plant in the world. So my family, my mom's side of the family moved to that area because there were great job opportunities there. And over time, Caterpillar moved operations to other parts of the country and other parts of the world. And that plant diminished in size and capacity and eventually closed. Along with that, there were 2 other plants near there within a mile of my house that also closed. And those combined, those plants hired, and they were good paying jobs for more than 2,000 families in my neighborhood. That has huge impact to the people that you know, people that your kids go to school with. They're all, it changes the dynamic tremendously. So I wanted to do something that would help those families, help their opportunity. I grew up in a construction industry family, and I understood a little bit about how things happen in that realm. And I wrote and sponsored the Blue Collar Jobs Act, which is a unique tax credit program for how we treat construction jobs in the state of Illinois. It's the first one that's been done in the country that way. In 2019, the governor signed the bill as part of a larger package of other measures. And that was important to me because it was a combination of business labor working together and will eventually create thousands of new jobs. The goal ultimately was to make facilities like that former Caterpillar plant something that could be usable again by other organizations, other companies. I'm going to come back to why that's important a little bit, but there's a little bit of the why. I want you to understand technology is great, but we should have a why behind some of those things, right? And here's one of my whys. To get something done in state government right now, first of all, I'm a member of the minority party. I'm actually one of the assistant minority leaders in the Illinois House of Representatives, which means that I have to work very collaboratively with members of the majority party to get things accomplished. So I've gotten myself, by hard work and good faith efforts, assigned to be the only Republican chairman in state government. I'm the co-chair of the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, which probably sounds like the worst title anybody could ever have. But it's the most powerful committee in state government. It's the only oversight committee of anything that happens in the executive branch. We have a chance to challenge, to help renegotiate on the administrative rules side of those things. And I bring that up because it's a 6-to-6 committee, 6 Republicans, 6 Democrats, 6 senators, 6 representatives. It is designed to be collaborative. So there really are some opportunities for what you may see on television or you see in the news online of the sniping and the bickering and the zingers that go back and forth between legislators. I don't live much in that world. I work very hard to be part of the collaborative concept of government. And that leads me to a committee that now is going to go more in tune here. We actually are one of the few states that has a cybersecurity, data analytics, and IT committee as a permanent committee in the Illinois House of Representatives. Not many states have that yet. It is also considered to be the most bipartisan committee of the standing committees that we have. The chairman and I work very closely together on all issues. And part of that's because I have an IT background. And virtually no other legislator has that same background. So I can actually try and translate what we want to do in the technology world into policy that might make a difference or turn that around. Sometimes we have to slow things down that are coming through that committee because they're going to have adverse impact to innovation in Illinois and possibly in the country. So being a part of those committees and working together with my colleagues in a very, very collegial manner brought us to something that came along just a few years ago, and that has to do with blockchain. Blockchain came up as a concept, I'll say 4 years ago. We decided to have a task force on blockchain, which usually in government means we will never hear from this topic again. But in this case, we did it differently. The blockchain task force was meant to be a group of legislators. There were 5 of us from the House and the Senate. There were other government level administrators, some from the county level, some from different state departments. And we had some leaders in the actual industry itself. And we met, usually a task force might meet once or twice. We probably met 15 times. We actually produced a useful report, which never happens in these task forces. A report people actually read, and we took action from. And part of that collaboration, there's a paragraph I actually cut and pasted onto my page here just because I thought it was, well, made me proud being a line item when it says that, blockchain technology talent pools will require education in computer science and engineering. The University of Illinois system graduates more computer science and computer engineering students than Caltech, MIT, Stanford, and Berkeley combined. So after having a chance to meet some of the incredible people that I going to have lunch with today, thank you for that. The inspiration that blockchain as a home and as a base of innovation here at the University of Illinois and on this campus, to me, is inspiring and let me know that we did do some things very correctly. We started down the road of legislating the opportunities for blockchain in our state. We also were the first state to create a consortium of state and county agencies by forming the Illinois Blockchain Initiative, which I think is going to grow over time. I mean, we've all been interrupted by the pandemic in ways that we'll probably never be able to understand fully. And some of these communication processes that were on their way have been derailed temporarily. And I'm optimistic and enthusiastic that we'll get back to those soon. Just hasn't landed all the way yet. We'll get there. But those innovations that are going to have, cross government agencies, those don't happen all the time. Usually we're in adversarial situations where everybody has their turf, they want to protect it. I think blockchain has so far been an opportunity for us to cross over those barriers that we have generally standing in the way of what we do in government. So why is blockchain so important? The concept and the infrastructure that it offers, and I'm talking about, put crypto to the side just for a second, just on what we can do and how we function in government, to me, is something that I don't think that very many of my colleagues, and I'm not sure very many of the folks that are actually running some of the state agencies are in tune with what we could actually do in Illinois to transform how we help our citizens, how we track what we do, how we spend things. Blockchain could revolutionize some of those things. And I want to circle back to what I said before about this Blue Collar Jobs Act. Tax credits are something that would be a very natural fit for the blockchain. Tax credits in concept are a wonderful thing to incentivize a behavior by a group of people or companies to do something we want them to do. We want people to invest in building, in Illinois and hiring in Illinois. So we have multiple tax credit systems that are in place right now. Some work very well, some are on their way, some don't work well at all. But I got a report not long ago that said that around 50% of these tax credits never actually get used because we don't have a system to track them very well. We don't have a system to transfer them in an open market so they could actually be used for what they're meant to be used for in the first place. So some folks look at our system and say, well, I'll never probably get to use those tax credits because I'm already a profitable company, or there are other barriers to actually being able to use them. We could change that. And to me, the most obvious place to do that would be with a blockchain-based system. To be a kind of narrowly tailored use of blockchain, but we offer a lot of money worth of tax credits in our state. The Edge Tax Credit Program, if you're a business of almost any size now, you can make a contract with the state of Illinois and get some pretty serious tax credits, but you can't transfer them to anyone else. So if you're not profitable, you can't really turn them in and use them. So there's a lot of issues there, but to me, blockchain has uses in the identity space. There's ways that we can make our government more efficient, more useful, and easier for constituents to deal with this in. So to me, I want to hear, and I got to see some of the students in district and how they're using blockchain. To me, this is the opportunity that stands in front of us, with the University of Illinois being at the centerpiece of so much of this. So where I'd like to go is by just kind of going through a list of things that I have in my mind of how I want to see what we can do. Because this, to me, is a collaboration. I am not going to be a coder, or someone who's going to get involved in mining crypto, as fun as that sounds to be in my hobby time. I just don't have the time. But I want those who are interested in doing those things and innovating to have that opportunity. And I think that blockchain really has the ability to transform our society and the way our government works within it. So my question to all of you, as we look at public policy, has to do with what do you need from government in order to be able to develop blockchain to its highest benefit, really, to our society and to each other. We took a very first step with HB 3575 a couple years ago that enables us to use smart contracts and have them be validated in Illinois. Let's say first that those are an enabling option. And I want to talk about this in the technology space because I think everyone here is very interested in how we move things forward. Legislation has two purposes. Most times, it's restrictive. It says what we cannot do. The other side of that coin is to say what we're allowed to do. I, involved in state government, don't have policy control over all 50 states of the United States. So if we do things that are limiting in the technology space legislatively, that prevents us, in my opinion, from doing things along those lines that are going to be harmful to the other 50 states. They'll be harmful to the innovators who want to create a service or an app or a product that's going to be used across all those state lines. So my best opportunity to help is to look at things that are enabling. What do you need the state government to respect legally to help your vision, your goals to be actually workable within state government, within state legal frameworks? So that's my question to everyone is, what do you need from government? What do you need us to get out of the way of effectively? What does it need to validate for you that will help? Because this kind of development, this innovation takes true initiative, it takes resources and time and your talents. So why should you choose to develop a blockchain initiative, a project that could have a roadblock thrown in the way by state government, the government as a whole? Why would you want to transform, your goal would be to transform the world with your project, but yet you're going to find out that there's a roadblock in the way that could make your project, worthless, invalid, potentially illegal. That means that we have to look at things a little differently because your career is only so long. Your efforts can only be spread so thin. Your ability to attract investors to what you're looking forward to do in the future. If you've hit a dead end, if you've had a failed project, those things are going to hamper your future ability to do those things. And if government's been in the way, we need to find how to get government out of the way. Lawyers can help you understand what the status quo currently is, but lawmakers get a chance to actually change that policy and clear the path for what you're trying to accomplish. Like I said, I don't plan to write the code or test the code, help to use the code. My goal is to clear the path for you, to work with you to do that. Whatever it is that we can do policy-wise in that respect, that's what I want to do. It started with smart contracts and requiring local legal establishments to understand and respect the smart contracts and the blockchain are legal and valid contracts. So what I'm hoping to come from all of this today is that there has to be a collaboration. Okay? I don't know that you've probably spent too much time with your state legislator in the past on any topic. But this state legislator is reaching out to you so I can take the time to understand what might be in your way. What relationships can we build together? But then in this case, my role as a state legislator means within state government, not just in writing bills, not just in stopping bills in some cases, but rather reaching across into the administrative side of state government. Who do you need to work with? Who would make it so that your idea can turn into reality in a way that affects our whole state, millions of people? To me, those are the things we can start with today. And that communication, I think is for me, it's really fun, to be honest with you. I've enjoyed every minute I've been here so far today. And if I had had the chance to work with you before we did the blockchain bill, the first one, I bet I would have had an easier time moving it through. Because you understand, after we ran the task force through, and we've filed legislation that the sponsor of the task force filed, it failed. It did not get a vote. It didn't have the support it needed to get through. But the second time through, and I led that effort, we did get it through, and that's when it became law. Part of that's because I have a technology background and people respect that in Springfield. They understood that if Wheeler's behind this probably is okay, because he's kind of a tech guy. People seem to go down that route. But you're going to do more advanced things. You're going to need more things. And if I can translate those for you, then state government, that's what the role I'd like to play on your behalf. So collaboration with, and by the way, I'm not the only one. There's 177 of us in Springfield, 118 in the House and 59 in the Senate. I can carry a lot, but I can't carry it all. The more relationships we have with each other, the better they're going to be. And I think you'd find that a lot of the folks really want to see you succeed. They really do. Now, there's going to be some people that are for the status quo, and blockchain can be considered a disruptive technology to them. But making the case for why this is so important to me and to you is what our goal really needs to be. So the idea that we can just call Wheeler and get it done is probably not all true. We have to build more relationships and work together. But your assistance is really required for blockchain to meet its potential in the state of Illinois. I need your help, and I want to work with you in that regard. I really believe the University of Illinois should be at the center for blockchain innovation. But it's only if you, people who really understand blockchain, people who really see the opportunity forward, are involved and make your voices heard so we can clear that path for you in government and private sector to informed contact and collaborate with people like me who want to see your innovations come to fruition. That's where I think we succeed. So I just, in my whole few hours today walking around the campus and being here with you all, I just see this as the exact place we should be doing this work. And I need your help to get that done. So we have the opportunity to partner with the other pro-innovation leaders in state government right now to affect that change. I just need you to raise your hand and walk down that path with me. And I think we can really get something amazing done for Illinois in blockchain. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Representative Wheeler, I just want to say again, on behalf of the Champaign Blockchain Meetup Group, thank you so much for coming today and talking with us. So in our meetup group, we have a lot of people who are very interested in seeing, this industry evolve and succeed. And we appreciate efforts of you and your colleagues in Springfield who want to use the state government as a way to help facilitate that. Are there other advocacy groups and other educational groups that we could sort of link up with that have been helpful to you that, we could also sort of collaborate with to help this whole effort?
That's a great question, because this is meant to be a collaborative effort and not just within the boundaries of our room here. But I think the Illinois Blockchain Initiative, once we get back to kind of a more normal footing and we can meet more easily in rooms together within county and state government, again, I'm going to tailor a lot of my remarks toward government because that's the role I'm playing today. There are opportunities there that we just need to work together on. That began a couple of years ago. It's, my involvement has been pretty much paused since we've gone through the pandemic. Returning to that, there's those opportunities will still, they'll resurface again. And I think we'll do very well to get together and work collaboratively in those regards. Because again, I don't think that we've never seen leaders in government who actually administer government will be the most benefited by blockchain, work together with the vision of people like you and in your organization to see where it can go and how we get there and what baby steps we have to take first, demonstrate proof of concept, and then move forward into a large-scale implementation. Those are steps we have to understand together. We're kind of at the infancy of that part of it. But there's momentum, there's enthusiasm. And those are great things to have at the beginning. But those conversations have to come next to see what are the actual realistic implementation opportunities. That's yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you for your talk. It was really enlightening. And because I'm a student, and I've been in the blockchain world for some time now. And some of the restrictions that I feel is like in the US, from a layman point of view, the investment side of it is like really restricted. Plus there is like a stigma and a lot of misinformation about blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So I personally feel like these restrictions somewhat hold the people back into looking in this industry in sort of like an innovative opportunity and like everything which you can see like talent moving in this industry. So if my question is like, if somebody who wants to make a blockchain startup or like work on a problem which is like completely decentralized, from a legislative point of view, what are the hurdles right now that team of people would have to face?
Well, that's also a very good question. My first reaction to that is going to be, we have to educate the people who are currently responsible for the systems that we want to either evolve or replace, in the fact that blockchain and crypto necessarily are the exact same thing. I think there's a concern that some folks have that we're getting into a space that has to do with financial markets and other things, and blockchain has other uses outside of that. And I don't know that people who are just getting a glance at the news regarding tech, regarding blockchain, necessarily understand that the differential between them. So I think that's part of it, and the other part of it is just going to be some proofs of concept that once they're seen and they're felt and they're understood, I think there'll be a more openness to adopting those things, and then the investment that you mentioned will follow, especially from government. Does that help?
Did you say FOMO in government?
I said,
Did you say FOMO in government? Fear of missing out in government?
I'm missing what you're saying. I'm sorry.
I thought in your response to him, you might have said that people in government have the fear of missing out, just like a lot of the rest of the public. Is that?
There's a fear of changing into something that's unknown. I mean, I should have said it differently.
Well, that actually is a really big concern. How do we go about, and obviously partnering in conversations like this are important. How do we go about helping to drive that change in consciousness so that people don't fear technology replacing jobs or technology replacing the way of life, which is, I think, one of the concerns you're highlighting here. Are there insights that you have or experiences you can share to help guide us on that journey?
And it's kind of an incremental approach, I think, is part of that, because I'll give you an example, a real life example. In Illinois, when I got sworn in the very first time, it was 2015. And we had at that time, I think the number was 258 separate computer network systems that were running state government. None of them talked to each other. So we did something that was very, cutting edge at the time. It was very concerning to many of the employees of state government who have quite a bit of influence over state policy, that we would put a Department of Innovation and Technology in place in Illinois state government, which would then effectively oversee and replace many of those different IT departments for those 258 different systems. That was met with resistance by people because we're changing the turf. Okay, we're changing just the way we approach it. Most of the people got, I think, rehired in other ways. It wasn't like it was going to be the end of careers for people. It was just going to change how they were set up. But there was still massive resistance to some of those things just because it was an unknown. And the status quo in government can be very rigid until policymakers start to redirect those things. And that's really what we did with the Department of, we call it Doit. I don't think Nike has sued us yet for the just do it part of it, but we're still evolving Doit. And it's now, it's come into to work through many different agencies in state government as a way to stabilize and offer better security and auditing of all those systems that are now becoming integrated. I see blockchain as an evolution from that, but probably based in it. So a Doit in state government would be a natural place for us to be aligned and to start working through proof of concepts and how we could roll out blockchain in a way that hasn't been done, or maybe they haven't seen yet. I intend to go to at least one more, I get two technology conferences within government scheduled for the rest of this year to try and understand what other states may have been doing in the blockchain space that I just don't know about yet, to see what their plans of their mission is to move forward and the evolution of how we store data, how we manage citizen data as a state. There's just so much we can do with that.
Hi, so I wanted to ask, as we saw in the infrastructure bill recently, it seems that the federal government is somewhat misinformed in regulating and taxing the blockchain industry. And I just wanted to know, how do you as a state legislator plan to counteract any harm that any federal regulations may cause?
That's really a good question. It's really a tough one because pretty much everything that the federal government does supersedes what I get to do or what we do as a state. So that's really going to take a concerted effort in collaboration with our federal leaders to realize that. And we have some good people in our congressional delegation who I think can understand those concerns justifiably raised just now by what you said. But it's going to take a federal effort on that. There's literally nothing we can do. We would love to, on several things, fix some things the federal government has done. But all I can do is then become a conduit to some of my congressional friends to say, this really went the wrong way. You didn't mean to do this, do something different. So we're happy to take that feedback and work with our congressional folks in our neighborhood in my district area Actually, we know most of the congressional folks in the whole state, so we can help in that regard, but your voice will be the most important voice in that, to help those people understand exactly the unintended consequences that was put into that bill. And I don't, with my role now being pretty overwhelming, don't get to follow the federal process as much as I used to. So your input to me is very helpful in understanding why that is really a negative consequence that came out of that infrastructure bill. Thank you.
I'm a faculty in the College of Business, and I was wondering, I guess, an add-on to the previous question on, I wouldn't say hindrances, but I guess in terms of incentives to attract businesses. Setting up, Wyoming did something in March where they passed legislation allowing what are called decentralized autonomous organizations to get protections similar to LLCs. Is there any discussion, in Illinois to do something similar?
No, I'd like to look at that though.
Okay.
So yeah, would you forward me anything you've got on that, and we can. Ben Markham is here. He's my district office director, and he manages all the people that help us write bills and work with policy. So that's fantastic to know that. I wasn't aware of that. So thank you.
Good afternoon, Governor. My question is regarding sandboxes. Okay, I mean, legislation is a great place to give confidence that what you're doing is not illegal. But for you
a little closer. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. My question is regarding sandboxes, a test bed to test new technologies like blockchain. So while legislation is a great start, to give confidence that what you're doing is legal and correct, sandboxes sort of gives you that flexibility to test your applications, right? So what is your stand on that? And are there any initiatives planned on that?
We've dealt with some of those things in other areas within technology and finance, and I've supported virtually all of those. So any opportunity we've got to reach out to us with any other opportunities you might see that we should be exploring in the sandboxes, then we can work with you on that.
Did you have a specific issue with the sandbox or?
I love the idea of using the sandbox as an exploration tool to determine what will and what will not work.
That may be a second thing to talk about.
Yeah, I wanted to ask something like those previous two questions. Those were so good about maybe legal recognition of decentralized autonomous organizations could be something to add to a future version of that, or adding something like safe harbors or sandboxes to provide some regulatory cover. Those are my favorite ideas. So I don't have as much to add as I thought I would. So instead, I would ask you, I guess, do you have any retrospective on the last year and a half of the blockchain bill? Are there any stories of, I tried to read the text of it and it was really interesting, basically setting up a legal framework like smart contracts, legal contracts posted on a blockchain have to be treated as valid contracts. Has anyone taken you up on that basically? Do you know of any contracts that have been done that way?
No one's reached out to me specifically. Ben, Ben handles all the communications for our office.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see me defer to him a lot because he knows more than I do on some of those issues. But it's been such a strange year and a half that I'd actually like to reach out to some of our friends in the legal community and see what kind of adoption we're getting and other things like that that we just don't have any data on yet. So I know it's an important first step, and we've been reached out to by numerous people saying congratulations on moving this forward as a good step in how we become a more innovative state. But what the actual results are, I don't have good data for yet. So I'll have to defer until we can get some for you.
Okay.
Good question. Thank you, Andrew. We have a question from online. Matthew Plowman asked, how active are the Doit committee or other parts of the legislature in supporting demonstration projects outside of state government?
Well, that's a really good question because let me just clarify, Doit being a department, they don't directly interact with legislators all the time. I I do because I reach out to them. However, my experience with them has been that they're very open to, and keep in mind that Doit changed dramatically when the governors changed, the appointments changed. So there's a whole new crop of people that came in. But my understanding and my feeling is that they've been very open to at least having discussions. Now, adopting everything that comes their way, they can't do immediately. But my impression is, and my collaboration with them has been very productive so far as how we move things forward and what we can do that will actually be realistic, because we have budget issues, we have other issues. But the regulatory part of it, I think they're open to discussions on.
That's good to hear, because as you and I have discussed, we have lots of potential projects that we could be collaborating in this space.
So I have two questions. One is simply, what are thoughts on how people could help the state government understand blockchain better? Because I think there is a lot of misunderstanding that limits, progress. The second is a bit more complicated. So blockchain inherently is built to be great at being decentralized. And in fact, that's part of the power of it. Now, you have a background in small business that actually really benefits people that are small players, because they can build these massive organizations or structures or businesses or projects with very little resources, because people from all around the world will help them through a decentralized nature build up their project. But that makes it unbelievably hard to create legal structures from a state perspective. Because let's say I'm building a project or a business within the state of Illinois, but I'm opening up my network so that people can help me build my project so that it can be a viable business. But that person might be in China or India or Korea, right? Or in a different state. And I might not even fully know where they're from, right? I just know that they're helping me build my project on the decentralized blockchain network. And so I'm just wondering, do you have any thoughts, or is there any precedent from other types of legislation where that kind of unusual situation is occurring, where it's definitely beyond state lines, but you've got to create some kind of legislation from a state perspective that could at least not limit a business, but actually help a business?
You're getting right into what I think the next stages of the harder part of the framework is going to be, or what those steps are that I need to understand better. Because, for instance, if right now, if we look at, if you're a cloud-based service provider in Illinois, you've got to adhere to any data privacy rules that we have here, even though those servers may be the non-decentralized version of the world. In other spaces, other countries, you're still responsible for Illinois' Personal Information Protection Act rulings. There's HIPAA issues you got to contend with that already exist, that are outside of the framework, but you're responsible because you took the data in Illinois. So there's definitely great questions we got to answer there. And in order to get a clarity, at least I said a clearer approach, who's responsible for which part of this going forward. I think that it was explained to me, I think you did actually today, that some of the stuff that went through in an Infrastructure Act at the federal level is going to require people involved in mining to know every person they're somehow working with in the blockchain. It's going to be impossible. So what's real? What can we actually do that supports the decentralized approach, at the same time protects the business who's setting it up, and also protects anybody whose data is within the blockchain? So there's really a balancing act we've got to come together on, and it's going to take a lot of communication and collaboration, which goes back to your very first question. How do we get people in government more in tune with what blockchain can be? What are the potentials? And that's going to come right down to communication, proofs of concept, those incremental steps at the beginning, so people see that this isn't something that's so mysterious and so otherworldly that we can never understand it as government, responsible legislators, administrators, executive branch personnel. There's a lot. We have many steps to go there. Getting the HB 3575 from the previous General Assembly passed was a very small, important step. But we have a lot of steps to go. And some of those steps have to be done at the federal level. There's just going to be no way around some of that. When it comes to tax policy, the IRS really holds way more sway than the Department of Revenue does. Revenue is important. We don't want to be in the way, but there's going to be, a meeting of many minds here at multiple levels for blockchain to get to where I think it go within government. And then reaching out of government into private sector investments and opportunities for innovation that are unlimited. Again, we're at the very beginning stages of how we do that within government. That's why this is such a fascinating topic to me as a legislator.
Question. I guess listening to Joe and thinking about the educational aspect, I'm wondering if we as instructors, here in the business school, we use case studies a lot. And I'm wondering if we should be thinking about that as a model for conveying something like what Joe was just talking about, helping people understand it through an actual example application as opposed to the hypothetical. Is that seeming?
To me, that's yeah. I mean, if Penn has been involved in state government longer than I have, and show and tell works fantastic in that world compared to a theoretical, application of a technology that they've never heard of, and they can't see it, and it's the opposite of what they're used to.
This is all in cyber, right? So it's
more
complicated. Yeah.
Hi, so I wanted to get your response as like a legislator. There's currently like a maximalist view within the crypto industry and a belief that crypto regulates government and not the other way around. Since like this technology really can't be stopped as long as individuals are capable of running their own node. Do you fear that this technology really can't be regulated at all?
I'm gonna preface some of that by saying that I don't know the answer to that question in a way that is going to be definitive enough to say yes or no. Primarily because I have not studied crypto as much as I've studied the blockchain uses that are more geared toward government. So I may just defer on that one, my friend, because I don't want to. I don't want to put an answer together that I haven't thought of enough. But it's a really interesting question. Really interesting question. One I'll probably think about on the way home. Thank you for that.
All right. I think we've probably exhausted our time for questions. Oh, one more?
Sure.
All right.
Already like part of the law where
No, it's an interesting question the way you framed it. I really enjoyed that because the goal was for us to do something enabling, right? Because that's something that opens the door for how we can move forward. So our biggest concerns when the bill didn't go through the first time had to do with people in some of our legal friends, especially in the real estate world, about the enforceability of a smart contract stored in blockchain that they couldn't sign on a piece of paper, that they couldn't make a DocuSign. They do that all the time right now. They're used to that. But this was a whole nother step beyond that. And I think it just took a period of time for awareness to catch up with what it really meant, that it wasn't going, and they really wanted, if we're going to go down this road, they really want the courts to see this as something that they can plant their flag in and say, this is an enforceable contract that we can move forward on, storing something in a new way. And that was kind of the hurdles we had overcome at the beginning. So you can imagine that on such a simple concept, right? When we go to the next level of things, there's going to be many more unintended consequences, or in some cases intended consequences, because we're going to disrupt some things with blockchain. So there's going to have to be a lot of education in this process for us to be able to get there. But to me, that's what the communication's for.
There are some really good questions.
Oh, I love this.
If I was the faculty member teaching this class and I'm getting asked these questions, I would be getting very nervous. The clock should be running out and we should be leaving so I can think a little more about this. This is good. We have one last question. We're going to, and we may be getting kicked out of the room, so we're going to have to wrap it up. But one more question. Matthew Plowman online asked a secondary question, and I think this sort of follows along what Vishal and some others were saying, that there's real opportunity for Illinois to show leadership here and to take the lead on some of these things. So he asks, many contracts stipulate the country or state which has legal jurisdiction to resolve conflicts. For example, many foreign sovereign bonds stipulate that they may be resolved in the Southern District of New York. Delaware has similar legal heft for incorporation. Any plans to make Illinois the same? And I'm assuming that means for blockchain area.
Wow, I love that thought. That's really smart. Let's make those plans, I guess. Let's put Ben to work and put that on our list of things to examine with our legal team. We're very blessed to have a great staff of folks who we work with in our offices in Springfield that get to learn all kinds of new things because we're asking all these new questions. And they're very good at chasing down what we need to understand from the brightest people in the country, other states that have tried certain things, other countries that may have examined it. We may have to employ them on this to try and understand what we can do that would take us to that next level. That's a really smart question, so thank you for that.
With that, I think we're going to wrap this up. I want to thank Representative Keith Wheeler again. And Keith, thank you. We will be collecting these ideas. I know Vishal and Matthew's questions. Make sure Ben gets those. Andrew also had some interesting points, and anything else we will make sure we get those to you because I think there's a real opportunity here for this partnership to grow.